Welcome to Golf Smarter Mulligans, your second chance to gain insight and advice from the best instructors featured on the Golf Smarter podcast. Great golf instruction never gets old. Our interview library features hundreds of hours of game improvement conversations like this that are no longer available in any podcast app.
I think what people need to do is they need to forget about technique and they need to forget about having a perfect putter and a perfect putting stroke and all those things. There's tons of people in the world that have all that stuff and they're lousy putters still. I mean, I watch guys and ladies on TV that we see every week that have access to the best resources and they still miss putts. So I'm a big advocate of let's figure out how the ball's going to go in and then let's kind of paint a picture of that. And then let's set up and let's go ahead and roll the ball on that line and stick with that. Let's not change our mind and come up with some crazy idea standing over the ball that we need to change this or change that or swing the putter a certain way. Let's figure out how to get from point A to point B and then set up and go ahead and do that.
With another interview from the archives of Golf Smarter, here's your host, Fred Green.
Picture a banana in your hand. Or better yet, if you eat a banana while you play, take it out of your bag and rotate the banana around. Hold it up. Rotate the banana around. Now, lay it on the putting green. Don't step on it. Now, increase the proportions of that banana so it magically stretches on the green between your ball and the hole. Fred, where are you going with this? Glad you asked. Because over the next 2 episodes, Paul Hobart will be happy to explain how you can increase your putting success with the image of a banana. Yes, his method is so compelling that we actually spend 30 minutes today and close to an hour discussing the subtle nuances on next week's show. Whew. Welcome to the Golf Smarter podcast, Paul.
Hey, Fred, how are you?
I'm doing fine. Thanks so much for coming to the show today.
I'm glad to be here.
I'm so glad to be speaking with you because I need help. Usually I'm looking for people to share lots of information for everybody. I need help. I've lost my touch on putting. I'm coming up 4, 8, 10 feet short all the time. I'm just I used to have this nice, easy touch. Maybe I'm thinking too much. I don't know what's going on, but my putting touch is gone. Can you help?
Well, I'd love to help you out with that. I would love to help you out. You're probably not the only guy that is in that same boat, so I think...
and we're sinking fast.
Actually, no, I think putting, I think people kind of overcomplicate it. And, I've tried to come up with some concepts to sort of simplify things and also get people's noggin in the right place right before the putter starts back so that you can avoid having those 4-foot and 8-foot mistakes that you were talking about.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And, you say simplify things. I once heard Fred Funk say, just putt like a kid. It's
yeah, I think there's a lot to that. I mean, you can, you give a little kid a putter and a golf ball and tell them to figure out how to get the ball into a cup on the putting green. They do a pretty darn good job with it. And then we get, as adults, we have to try to figure out how to do that and then how to improve the part that we found out how to do. And we get distracted, and we lose sight of the fact that we're just trying to make the ball go into the cup. Ultimately, it doesn't really matter how you do that or how you look doing it. Just get the result that you're after.
And how do we get there?
Well, I
know you have a book and it explains everything, but I'm going for it
sure.
right now.
I think what people need to do is they need to forget about technique and they need to forget about having a perfect putter and a perfect putting stroke and all those things. There's tons of people in the world that have all that stuff and they're lousy putters still. I mean, I watch guys and ladies on TV that we see every week that have access to the best resources and they still miss putts, so you have to figure out why how can that be? They've got all the stuff that you're supposed to have and they work with people and they do all the practicing that we're all supposed to do. So I think what you need to do is you just need to have a better idea when you get up over the putter as you approach it. What am I really trying to do here? And then try to create a game plan of, how's my ball going to get from here to in the hole? And then everything that happens after that needs to match up with that. So I'm a big advocate of, let's figure out how the ball's going to go in, and then let's kind of paint a picture of that, and then let's set up and let's go ahead and roll the ball on that line, and stick with that. Let's not change our mind and come up with some, crazy idea standing over the ball that we need to change this or change that or swing the putter a certain way. Let's just, let's figure out how to get from point A to point B, and then set up and go ahead and do that.
There have been many times where I'm standing behind the ball and I'm lining up my putt and I'm checking the line and I can see what I need to do speed-wise, and then I'll stand over the ball and everything looks completely different. No
doubt. Well, some of the guys that I've learned a lot of putting stuff from, like Craig Farnsworth, Jeff Mangum, a few of the the really well-renowned putting instructors, and probably Dr. Craig, I would say, gave me the best idea. He said, your eyeballs tend to work best the way they're placed on your head, which, as we're sitting here chatting, our eyeballs are level. The two eyes are level, and that's where most of us kind of figure out our putt, with our eyes level. And then you go turn your head, you bend over, you turn your head, you rotate everything, and it's just not going to look the same. So I try to have people, let's figure out what's going on with our eyes level, whether that's, behind the ball, behind the cup, off to the side. Use your eyeballs the way that they're placed on your head, figure out what's going on, and then understand that once you get up over the putt and you turn your head, that it's going to look funny. But if you know that, and you know that little guy on your shoulder is going to whisper in your ear and say, "Hey, Fred, it breaks more than that," or turn, you got to hit it harder, you got to do this or that. If you can get to where you can ignore that guy, he'll start to talk a little bit more quietly the next time, and then you can go ahead and just trust what you planned out and what you discovered with your eyes working the right way.
Even the little guy on my shoulder says, "Hey, Fred." Oh my gosh, everybody's saying,
I think we've all got that little guy.
Yeah, right, exactly. No, I mean, the idea of your eyes are level, not only the level, your eyes are facing forward, right?
Exactly.
As opposed to, say, we were a bird and we were standing over the ball, then we can see the hole we wouldn't see the ball looking down, but we would see the hole. Yeah, so it is committing to your shot. Even
no question.
Whether it's your putt or your drive or your approach shot, it is committing to it from behind the ball before you step up to it, huh?
Right. I think because that's where you're going to get the best information. And if you have a perspective that you can, from which you can look at the putt and you can get good information, and that there's another spot where you're giving yourself bad information. I always ask people, now, why would you listen to that guy if you know he's wrong most of the time? Most of us, if we had, if you own a business or you have an advisor or somebody that gives you advice, if they give you bad advice all the time, at some point you fire that guy or you get him out of your world because you don't want to listen to that anymore. But in golf, we just keep listening to that guy tell us as we stand over the ball that things aren't correct, and we change things. And that's what I try to get people out of, is don't change things standing over the ball. That's the worst possible place to do that. If you don't believe what you're doing, take a step back, start over, check things out, confirm if, am I doing the right thing or not? If you're doing the wrong thing and you feel I need to make an adjustment, do that. But you need to get over that ball, and you need to have a sense of certainty about what you're doing. Otherwise, you're going to have 25 different putting strokes going on, and you're going to get the results that match up with that.
As many things in golf that are difficult, I find that the hardest thing to do is step away.
No doubt. Well, there's you don't want to hold up the people behind you, and you don't want the people that you're playing with to think that you think you're better than they are or something because you've got the nerve to back off the shot. But what I always tell people with backing off the shot is, if you stand over it and you hit a bad shot, it's going to probably take more time in the long run than if you would have backed off and hit a good shot.
You're absolutely right. Oh, my gosh, that's so true. But, if you have to, say you hit your shot and it goes OB, now you need to hit a provisional. You have to announce that you're hitting provisional, right?
Exactly.
So what I like to do is announce what I call a mental mulligan.
That's a great idea.
And it doesn't count on the scorecard. Right?
No.
And nobody's going to say you broke the rules with a mental mulligan, so just step away and go, mental mulligan, announce it to everybody. They'll get a good laugh out of it, and then you won't feel like you're pressuring yourself of taking too much time, or everyone being annoyed with you that you take too much time.
You'd probably start a great trend within your foursome, too, where everybody would do that, and you'd all play better, and nobody's golf ego would have to worry about what the other people were thinking either.
Right. And then on the next round, everyone's go, okay, 2 mental mulligans per side, please. Oh, gosh. All right, so let's talk about your method of teaching of putting, and the title of your book being Banana Putting. Here we are. We're 10 minutes into this conversation, and we're now bringing up banana putting. What the hell are you talking about?
Well, I did that because I really wanted to get people's attention and have me ask that exact same question.
Got me. Well, congratulations, you succeeded.
Awesome. Well, if I just called it, putt better, how to make more putts, it kind of sounds like the same old thing. So I really did want to get people's attention, but there is a reason that I used the banana term, because I found as I was giving people lessons, I was using the word banana to describe a concept that I think is important when people are planning their putts out. So if you can, the people that are listening, if you can imagine the shape of a banana, it's got the little seams on it or the little lines that kind of come down the side. If you can imagine laying that on the ground as we're looking at a putt, and this is not all my information. It's you can. As soon as a golf ball was rolling on the ground, this was evident to people. But when you have a putt, if you have a breaking putt, there's going to be a line that you can hit the ball on where you hit it as hard as you can, and it'll hit the back of the cup, and it won't jump out. It'll stay in the cup. So that's our most direct line to the cup. There's also a line where you can hit the ball playing a lot more break, and it's going much more slowly, and maybe the ball's just going to topple in right at the last second. So there's a line where we can hit it the hardest, and there's a line there where we can hit it the softest, and both of those would end up in the cup. So I've done some testing with that, and plotted it out and drawn little banana pictures with golf balls and everything. But essentially, the shape that it takes is the shape of a banana, because you've got two arcs. One's a lot straighter than the other one, and one kind of loops out to the side more. So as I kept describing this to people, I'd say, well, it's kind of the shape of a banana. It's kind of the shape of a banana. So when I went to put my thoughts down, I said, well, I need something catchy, so guys like Fred will ask me what the heck it means. So I just went ahead and called it banana putting. And if for anybody that's seen the logo, the guy that drew the logo up, I said, I want the logo to have a banana on it, but I want it to also kind of indicate what the heck the concept is without, maybe blaring it out right to somebody initially. So that's kind of where it came from.
Well, do you think your artist succeeded?
I think he did a nice job. Yeah,
I think it's an excellent visual of what you're talking about. I think it says it immediately. I think he nailed it.
Yeah, I think once people hear the concept, and then if you look at the logo after you've heard just a little bit of the concept, you go, oh yeah, okay, I could see my ball going on this line or this line or this line. And there's the gist of it is there's a lot of different ways to make the same putt.
Well, and so now you're not making it simpler, buddy.
Wait.
All of a sudden now I have three options, and all I want to do is get it from A to B, and you're giving me three different options.
Awesome. What I tell people with the banana, awesome. So on the banana, on the logo, there's three lines. Like you said, there's the lowest line, the highest line, and in between. Now, what I tell people is based on your skill level or how involved or uninvolved you want to be in this process, you can decide, how many options you have on a putt. So maybe you just look at it and say, well, if I hit it really hard, I'm going to hit it on this line. If I hit it really easy, I'm going to hit it on this line. Now, you being the great golfer that you are, Fred, clearing of the throat. you may decide, well, hey, I can hit it hard, I could hit it easy, and I could hit it in between. I can have kind of a medium putt. And somebody that's maybe played more, maybe they're a more accomplished golfer, they might say, okay, I got, 5 different ways I can play this. What I usually recommend to people is, figure out what your profile is. Are you more the guy that wants to charge the putt and ram it in the back of the cup? Or would you prefer to, to die it in there and just try to do that most of the time? Don't try to, you get in a scramble sometimes or a partner situation, and your buddy says, well, ram it in there, and if it's an uncomfortable speed for you, typically you're not going to do very well. So I recommend, within that scope or within that banana-shaped area, let's figure out where, most of the time, where's the best speed profile for you to kind of putt the ball into the cup. So I don't know if that's simplified it at all or not.
Well,
but I'm not trying to complicate it, but just give people options.
No, I'm liking the concept, but here's my issue: is that, and this is probably why I'm coming up short more times than not lately, because I don't want to go long, and I want it to just kind of like, flow, just drop right into the cup when it gets there.
Perfect.
Right? And it would be nice if I can get it into the middle of the cup as opposed to hitting the back of the cup. But I'm afraid if I'm hitting the back of the cup, I guess what I'm saying is the skill level that I'm at, I don't believe the ball's going to go in the hole until I get really close. So I'm not standing at I'm not standing at 10, 15, 25 and beyond feet away from the putt thinking, all right, I'm putting this one in. Where I know on the tour, they don't think about missing ever.
Right.
But
I think, I tell people the ball's got to stop someplace, so it might as well be in the hole. I know that's not always the case. And I think
from your mouth to the golf from your mouth to the golf god's ears, right?
Yeah, exactly. But for most putts, there is some way that you could get the ball to go in the hole. I mean, there's very few putts that are impossible. There's certainly lots of difficult putts, but there's usually some way you could get the ball to go in. Now, I think from a speed standpoint, and that's how I would, steer somebody towards what pace they should usually use, is most people probably want to be higher up on the curve, so playing more break, because the resulting putt, if you miss, is going to be a lot shorter. Yeah, so I think there's very few occasions where you're going to want to hit the ball as hard as you can into the back of the cup, because depending on the greens that you're playing, you may have a longer putt on the next one. So I think for most people, that's very seldom a good idea. I just want them to know that that's an option. And a concept that I try to tell people, and I think a lot of people do this backwards, is people draw a straight line from them to the cup, and then they try to figure the break out moving away from that straight line. What I tell people to do is, let's try to figure out what's the most break I could possibly play on this putt, and then I'll kind of work down from that. So I think
I'm with you. Keep going.
It gets people, because usually, if you play in a tournament or a scramble like we said earlier, when you have people read putts, it's always a ball outside the cup, a cup, 2 cups out. Everything's relative to where the hole is. And I think in a lot of putts, if you play someplace with very undulating greens, you got to get to where you can aim the ball away from the hole and give that thing a lot more opportunity either to go in, or at the very least, at the end of the putt, to be moving towards the hole instead of away from the hole. So I have people kind of read things backwards, like, how high could we play this and still make it? And then if you want to add a little bit more speed to it, then we'll take some of that break off of it. But let's not putt everything at the edge of the cup, because there's an awful lot of putts that break more than that.
But isn't this counterintuitive that the slower you're going to put, the slower pace that you're going to put on the ball, the bigger the arc it's going to take?
It is, yes.
Because you think that if you're hitting it slower, it's not going to get around that big arc.
Right. It takes a little bit of practicing. I mean, I would urge people to go find a spot on a practice green or a green on the golf course that's got a lot of break to it, and just experiment a little bit. Stick a tee and say, here's I think I need to aim at this spot and stick a tee in the ground, see how that goes, and get to where you're playing enough break. You're getting that thing high enough up the slope where it has an opportunity to go in, and it just changes your mindset a little bit. Because it's hard to aim away from where you want the ball to go. Our minds like to play connect the dots.
Sure.
So we're always trying to just go straight from here to the cup, and that's how a lot of people putt anyway. They just aim right at the hole.
Right. And to me, again, we get back to, if you go a straighter line, you've got to putt it faster. And what generally will happen for me is that I'll miss on the low side, and it'll just scoot right by the hole and go 8 feet away.
Right.
Right.
Yep. And that's the problem, and is the adjustments that I mentioned earlier is once people get lined up and they've made a decision, okay, this is how I see myself making this putt. If you get over it and you change your mind about the speed, you say, hey, I got this Fred guy one down, and I'm going to really show him what's going on here, so I'm going to ram this thing in. But unfortunately, you lined up to play a bunch of break. That's not going to work. And if you get over it and you say, well, I'm going to play it, right on the right edge. I'm going to really firm it in there. and then at the last second you chicken out and you hit it a lot easier, that's not going to work either. So I try to get people to, decide what line you think you need to putt the ball on and at what speed. And that's, I usually tell people, figure out the speed first. What speed's it going to go in? And then that dictates your line. But once you get over it, you got to stick with that speed. If you change your mind about something, it's going to be a disaster. You're just not going to hit a good putt, and you're going to miss it nearly every time.
Right. No, I mean, I think that consistently what we hear on this program from instructors all the time is stick with what your decision is.
Right. Yeah, I would agree with that 100%.
Yeah, everyone.
Unless I change my mind.
All right. So now we've got the concept of different speeds are going to give you different angles.
Right.
Okay. Where do we go with that idea? How do we
okay.
make that work?
I have, because there's 5 key points in the book, and I made these up because they all kind of rhyme, and I liked them. So what I tell people to do is I say scan it, plan it, point it, roll it, and then rate it. Some of those rhyme, I guess. So there's 5
everything
components.
rhymes with it.
Yeah, it does.
When you keep repeating the word it's going to rhyme, buddy.
I think I'll move into poetry next, maybe.
Yeah, right.
So scan it to me is gathering all the information that's going to tell me, what's the green doing, what's the break of the putt, and so forth.
When do you start to scan it? I mean, when you're saying gathering all the information, at what point? When you grab your putter out of your bag, or as you're?
I'd say before that. I'd say as soon as you can see the green, you can start gathering information. Mm-hmm. You can look and see what the lay of the land is. I like to tell people it's kind of like when you have a camera that zooms in and zooms out. I think the way a lot of people read their putt is they've zoomed in, and the only thing that they're looking at is the grass between the golf ball and the cup. Mm-hmm. So I like to have people zoom out. Start look at the green from the fairway. A lot of times you could say, well, okay, from here, the left side of the green is quite obviously higher than the right side. Let me just, put that into the memory bank here for when I go to read my putt. Pick out the high point, the low point, just generally speaking, see what the land is doing around the green. And you file that away. A lot of this sounds like it's sort of a complicated process to gather information, but once you kind of tell your brain to do that every time, what you'll find is you just sort of soak it in. It's more like a sponge. And that's what good putters do, is they gather all the relevant information and they just kind of figure it out. They're not going through a checklist of, where's the high spot, where's the low spot, is there grain going this way, is there, what's going on. They just factor all those things in as they're approaching the green, as they're approaching their putt. So that's the scan it basically is my, I don't like the term reading the green, because I think you have to factor in more stuff than just what's going on in your little portion of the green right there.
Okay. I
and some of that comes down to watching what your fellow golfers are doing too, because you're all playing to the same cup.
Right.
So, if I'm taking the putter out of the bag and I glance over and I watch your chip shot roll up there, somebody's sand shot or whatever the case may be, if I watch just at the end of the roll of the golf ball, it's always going to fall downhill. So that's going to give me some pretty good data. Not that I have to intently watch that, but I'm just going to pay attention to it and go, oh, well, that's interesting. That ball, trickled down to the right a little bit as it went up to the cup. So I'm going to plug that into my memory bank too. So when I go to figure out my, what mine's going to do and kind of figure out what's going on in the world of my putt, then I've got some good information in there that I can tap into.
Let's say that my playing partner, he went a little bit long, and he came up about 25 feet from the pin, and I came up a little short, but I'm about 15 feet from the pin. So now we're both looking at the ball from opposite ends. Like he's at 12 o'clock, I'm at 6 o'clock. Okay. And he's got to go first. What can I learn from his putt? Because he's going first.
Well, one thing is you're going even though you're putting to the same hole, there could be different things going on with your buddy's putt versus your putt. So I think you have to look and see if there's a fairly consistent slope that you guys are both putting on.
Let's assume that there is a consistent slope.
Okay. Well,
so he's going to go now I'm watching his ball, and from me it's going left to right towards
Okay.
the hole, right? So if he's
Right.
a right-handed putter, it's going to go outside and back in. Does
Got it.
that mean I should continue with that line? It's going to go it's going to break for me that same direction, or it's going to go the opposite direction because I'm on the other side of the green?
Well, the ball certainly should break the same direction. I mean, it's going to be, your putt would be right to left if his is left to right. You're going uphill, so yours is going to break probably a little bit less than his is coming downhill. So you can factor that in. So, I look at, and I would recommend to people, when you watch somebody putt, and as they hit the putt, kind of watch the stroke. How much back and forth did the guy swing the putter? Did it look like he didn't hit the ball? He hit the ball too hard, and then look and see what the ball does. If it rolls, if he knocks it all the way down to where your golf ball is, you could say, well, I think this green might be, have some speed to it. Now, if it looked like he just made a lousy putting stroke, then I would throw that out. So you have to kind of factor in, is the information I'm getting from this guy credible, because he might just be really bad. But if it's a good player or somebody that you think's a decent putter and that they hit a putt, I like to listen to what people say, because sometimes a guy goes, gosh, I can't believe it was that quick, or I can't believe it broke that much, or so you can get some feedback from that too. But I would watch predominantly what's going on as the ball comes to a stop, because you're just going to get a little bit of information. Did it continue to roll out? That tells me some things about green speed. And, which way did that ball kind of topple over at the end, because that really is going to tell me what the slope is doing.
I'll tell you, it's part of the traditional elements of the game that I still I'm having trouble with, which is honors. Okay, so now a guy's farther from the hole, so he putts first. Well, then how come on the next tee, if he had the highest amount of shots for that hole, he doesn't go first?
Right.
If I had the lowest score, I should get the choice of who goes first. I want to see what they're going to do, just like I'm doing on a putt. I want to see how they approach the hole. They approach their tee shot. Okay.
I like that.
This
could be part of the new golf.
What's that? Yeah,
golf in Fred's world.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Not the USGA. Okay, so go. I'm sorry to interrupt with my ADD brain, but here we go. Next after Scan It is Plan It.
Scan It is Plan It, and that's really got a lot to do with kind of the banana concept. So that would, Plan It is really going to be, where you've factored in your information. You look at the putt and you go, okay, this is how I see myself getting the ball to go in the hole. This is where within that banana shape I think I'm going to putt the ball, and this is how it's going to go in. That's kind of the point where you're going to decide the speed that you'd like to hit it, and then the line that's dictated by that.
And commit to it.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. After Plan It, Point It.
Point It is going to be next. So I'm an advocate of lining, something on the golf ball, lining that up in the direction you want to start your putt. So a lot of the golf balls nowadays, they've figured out that people do that, so they've actually put the little the little writing on the side of the ball, whether it says Callaway or Titleist, Pro V or whatever. They've put little arrows on both sides. I'm sorry?
Dixon Earth. That's the ball that I like to use, but you probably never even heard of it. Go ahead.
I have not. So whether it's using something that's already on the ball or whether you like to draw a line on the ball, I like for people to, in having looked at the putt and planned it out and say, okay, well, I think I need to start it on this line for it to kind of trace the line that I've envisioned it going on, and set the ball down very carefully and point that line where you think you need to start it. Okay, because that's going to be a key component of being able to get over the ball and really trust what you're doing. Is you got to have some basis to know, okay, I'm lined up the right way. I've got to have some reference point that tells me I'm set up in a way where I can make this putt.
Should you also use that line to help? And then the putters have lines. They'll give you a tee. A lot of the putters now they'll make a white line or something so you can follow that line. But should you also use that to line up your feet with that, or is that not as important?
I think you could. I think there's so much personal preference in putting. There's open stances, there's closed stances. I think the key is most good putters, when they set up to it, will have their shoulders pretty square to the ball. So I think, if you had a square stance, by all means, you could help yourself out probably by aligning yourself up, with your feet parallel to where the golf ball's pointed. But it just kind of depends on how each person sets up to it.
I just had an epiphany. Is it more important to square your shoulders than your feet?
Yes.
Oh, wow. I think I just discovered something.
Okay. We got something out of our conversation now. That's good.
With a minute and a half to go. So then, all right, point it, roll it.
Okay. Now roll it is going to be where you're going to get over the top of it. You get your ball lined up. You got the putter set down behind the ball. So everything's good. This is where we're going to trust the fact that we've done our homework. We've come up with a game plan on how the ball's going to get to the hole and go in, and we're going to set up to it, and we're just going to be 100% committed to rolling the ball on that line that we chose. Okay? The other thing that we need to do is our last thought, and this is what I tell people, the last thing you should be thinking, because once you set up to it and you got the putter down there and the ball down there and the lines and all that stuff, is you are aligned at that point. Your alignment should be over at that point. So we want to kind of check out of that department and say, all right, let me put 100% focus on creating the correct amount of backswing and through swing that's going to hit the ball the distance that I chose earlier when I was planning my putt out.
Now you don't refer to it as hitting it. You call it roll it.
Exactly. Yeah,
Well,
I think
is that
a lot
conscious
of
choice.
Yeah, it's. I think the words a lot of times that we put in our head dictate the movements that we make, or the way that we swing a golf club.
Okay.
So it's been my experience, if you can tell somebody to roll the ball towards the cup, their mechanics tend to be better. Even though I typically don't work on mechanics a whole lot with people, because I don't think putting's that complicated. I mean, I have a 2-year-old daughter, and she can putt the ball beautifully. She can roll a ball on the ground as good as anybody.
Wow.
Making it go in the hole is another story.
Oh, okay. Okay, now I got you.
But the act of putting a golf ball is not that complicated. I mean, if you make contact, it's going to roll on the ground.
Yeah.
So I think if people can think about rolling the ball towards the cup or rolling the ball along the target line, it tends to inspire more of the kind of swing of the golf club that would cause that to happen. Whereas if you tell people to hit the putt, in many cases, that trailing hand, that right hand for a righty, is going to jump in there and give that thing a little pop down at the bottom, and then you get really inconsistent contact. The club face is going right and left, and a whole host of bad things happen usually when you're hitting your putts.
Okay. Now listen, before we get to the last one, and I apologize to the listeners for this, we've reached our time on this. Would you mind sticking around? Because I have so many more questions for you. Can we do another episode for the following week?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So we just want to tell everybody, again, it's banana putting. I don't think we have to tell you how to spell banana putting. And the book is also now in hardback, right, on Amazon?
Paperback.
On paperback. Okay, good.
Yes,
and Paul Hobart will return next week for a members-only episode because we've got a lot more questions to ask. Paul, thanks so much.
You're very welcome.
SmarterPodcasts.com. Delivering sound advice.